Hello, everybody, and welcome to Monday Night Therapy. I am John Johnston. I'm here with Dr. Lou Kohl,
Howdy, all.
cardiologist Dr. Lou Kohl, who is a doctor for Hennepin Healthcare, which was Hennepin Health, which was it? HCMC, Hennepin County Medical Center. When I was taken there just over 9 years ago, dead. And Dr. Lou Kohl is the guy that saved my life.
So it's part of a team that did that.
But come on, take credit, man.
I did for being part of the team.
All right. I know that it's football season and the Florida State beat Georgia Tech last Saturday Georgia Tech beat Florida State in a huge upset, or what was a fun upset. But since we're going to probably have a decent crowd, maybe, I don't know. I want to talk about heart attack awareness because you know what? Because to be honest with you, a few years ago, Brian Toll, who was on our site for many years, passed away. And he was a good friend of mine. He had heart issues, and that's what pretty much did him in. And it was terrible. And I've never forgotten that. I've never forgotten the other people I know that haven't survived heart attack. And for some reason I did. And you can give credit to Dr. Lou Kohl and his team. Give credit to the prayer. By the way, my sister is well connected with nuns, so there was a lot of praying going on. You can give credit to, maybe me, because I stayed healthy enough to survive a Widowmaker and being dead 20 minutes and still be functional. But, what did I send you earlier? See, I should have been prepared for this. I should have put the stats up. Hold on a second. You know what? One of my former neighbors was at our house tonight, and I was talking to her for a while, and I completely blanked this off. But we have some statistics that I wanted to tell you people, because the chances are that somebody in your life or you is going to deal with heart attacks. This is from the CDC. Heart disease, the leading cause of death for men, women, and people of most racial and ethnic groups. One person dies every 33 seconds from cardiovascular disease. That's just heart disease. Heart disease costs about $252 billion from 2019 to 2020. That's the cost of healthcare services, medicines, and lost productivity. And heart attack, in the United States, somebody has a heart attack every 40 seconds. They don't all go to Hennepin County. But it seemed like they did when I was there in the ER a few times. Every year, about 805,000 people in the United States have a heart attack. Of these, 605,000 are a first heart attack, and 200,000 happen to be people who have already had a heart attack. And here's something for you, Dr. Kohl. I thought about calling you Lou, but it just doesn't fit, man.
You can. That is my name.
Okay. About 1 in 5 heart attacks are silent. The damage is done, but the person is not aware of it. We had my annual cardiology appointment a few weeks ago.
We did.
And you said to me that one of the things, because how many patients do you think you see in a day?
The average day I see a couple handfuls, depending on the day, somewhere between 10 and 40, depending on what I'm up to.
Between 10 and 40 a day?
Sure.
Oh my God. Okay. You had told me that one of the things that people have a misconception about is just having a heart attack. That most of the movies, for example, most people, when they're watching doctor shows, everybody who is in a doctor show and has a heart attack, there you go. They do that, and 90% of them die.
And it would be terrible. But as far as we are concerned in the medical community, it would be amazing if that's how it worked. But it doesn't. In the sense that people have this wide range of symptoms when they have a heart attack. Folks can definitely have the squeezing, crushing, pressure on your chest, big rock on your chest, belt tightening across your chest. We do hear lots of that. that isn't the whole spectrum of heart attack. We definitely hear lots of people who have jaw pain or neck pain or shoulder pain or left arm pain. And that kind of gets our attention. But then we have things like pain in their upper abdomen that sounds a lot like heartburn, or
That was
burning pain in
mine.
their chest, or like you, John, sometimes they just keel over and die without warning. That's a particularly bad one. There's not a lot of warning when that happens. And then, just as you suggested, there's some folks who probably have symptoms in reality, but either they're not paying attention to them, or they're distracted by something else, or they're just short of breath, or whatever. It can really come in a true spectrum that is different for each individual person. And that makes it really hard, I think, especially for folks who have not had a heart cardiac event before. In that we get a lot of these. I was working on the inpatient service last week and saw a lot of people who came in with a variety of things, including some relatively young people, not particularly different in age than you were when you came in. And one of the themes from those people last week was, I felt something and it was weird, but I wasn't really sure. I even Googled it, and that wasn't exactly what Google said. And it just isn't the same pattern for every single person, which is on some level kind of a bummer, because it would be easier if there was just a recipe and we could tick off the boxes and say, okay, you have the crushing elephant pain on your chest. Okay, great. Well, then we need to treat you for a heart attack.
So mine was heartburn. When I right before mine, I thought, I had the worst heartburn of my life, and it was amazing amount of pains. And I had drank some, I don't know, Pepto-Bismol. I think I drank a half bottle of Pepto-Bismol before I came in, I guess. I wasn't exactly cognizant when I arrived, but but my entire life, I always thought, okay, people have a heart attack, they have tingling up and down their left arm, and the whole heartburn thing never connected for me at all.
No, heartburn's a pretty common one. As you said, some people have arm pain. It's more often on the left. It can be on the right. Neck pain, jaw pain, breathing troubles. And I think this is one of the hard things about our messaging out to patients about heart attacks. We want to give people a really clear, if you're having chest pain, call 911.
Right.
It's totally what you should do if you think you're having a heart attack. But it's not quite that clean and cut and dry. And I guess what I suggest to people is, most people have a pretty good sense of when something is just really, really wrong. Us Midwestern guys especially sometimes don't listen to that little voice inside and actually heed that little voice. It's saying something's wrong here. But if you have that, then talk to your family member, call 911 if you're not near someone, get some help, reach out to someone else and see what they think, because often they will be the voice of reason. We hear a lot of, thank goodness my whomever told me to come in and get checked out.
Okay, I'm going to take some comments real quick. These are normal. I have a regular group that shows up, and some of them are, they're Nebraska fans. We've been through a lot of pain. We'll get into that in a little bit. Wait a minute. Before I do this, I want to talk about messaging for a minute, because you and I have talked about this. I wrote a book. Here, I'll put it up. I wrote 3 books. I wrote this one, The Been Dead, Never Been to Europe. Everybody's heard about that one.
It's a good one. You guys, the other one, if you have not.
Dr. Kohl is in that. I wrote this book for heart attack survivors, and I wrote it because, to be honest with you, I'm in a lot of heart attack survivor groups on Facebook. I've talked to a lot of heart attack survivors and brain injury survivors, because, as you guys probably know, if you watch the show a lot, I live with a TBI. But this one, notice the subtitle, Overcoming Anger, Anxiety, and Depression to Get Your Life Back After Trauma. One more. I did write this one, The Mystery of the Dent in My Head, and we'll talk about that later.
I feel like we haven't talked about that as much recently. We used to talk
No.
about it all the time.
No.
Like every time I saw you, you asked me about the dent in your head. Every time I said, I don't know, John. I wish I could tell you. Why you put it in your head. But I
Okay, messaging. We're staying on messaging right
Okay.
now.
Sorry.
Okay. One of the things that we have, the other thing we've talked about is most people, listen, for people out there, most people, when you get a cancer diagnosis or somebody close to you gets a cancer diagnosis, you know how devastating emotionally that is for a person. You know that it's going to create a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression. What people do not know is people who have heart attacks, probably no matter what the severity is, they go through a lot of the same stuff, and nobody seems to know that. Why the hell is that?
That's a good question. I think there have been some really nice studies. I did some of my training in San Francisco, and there was a great study done at the San Francisco VA that looked at heart attack survivors, and the rates of depression and anxiety after heart attack were very high, were 10, 20, 30%. And, I don't, to keep it more real, I think anecdotally, in discussing with my own patients, I think we run into a lot of, for younger people, facing mortality a little bit for the first time.
Right.
I think we run into tons of, which is totally understandable, we run into tons of just anxiety around when is it going to happen again, because we don't have great predictors to say, okay, you had this one sort of out of the blue in most people's cases.
Right.
I can't tell you if you're going to have another one in a month or a year or hopefully never.
Right.
And that uncertainty is really, really unsettling for people, especially in that early phase when they're trying to resort out their life with this new lens of, holy shit, every little pain in my chest, every little tingling that I absolutely ignored before, now is this a heart attack? Am I having a
I can, you know what, I can tell you firsthand this still happens to me every once in a while. I'll stand in front of my bed when I'm going to lay down, and I think to myself, am I ever going to wake up again? That was more prevalent, obviously, at the beginning, because, first of all, I don't remember pretty much the fall of 2015. My memory of that is pretty blurry. The entire time I was in the hospital, I don't really remember a whole lot, obviously, because I don't know who put the dent in my head when I was at the hospital. But
it was me with a ball peen hammer.
Well, hey, okay. But there is a lot of that. There's a lot, even now, 9 years later. It was 9 years on August 21st, and I had you do a stress test on me this year. And the reason I asked you to do the stress test is because I felt weird in my, when you start losing confidence that your heart's going to kill you again, and you think that, well, the stress test took away a lot of that, because you basically said that, I did better than most people my age who don't have a damaged heart. Or were you just lying to me to make me feel better?
I was not. I was actually telling you the truth.
Well, that's good to know. Now that I have an audience and everything.
But yeah, no, I think the uncertainty around it is just huge. And I think for some folks can be just absolutely crippling, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That mental health part of it, it's easy to get wrapped up in the cool, we opened the artery with stent, or we found it was the Widowmaker and fixed it, and we got these new drugs. But none of that those things fade away the minute you go home from the hospital and you're faced with the much more uncertain reality of, okay, now I got to take these pills every day. I don't like taking pills.
Right.
All my stuff is disrupted.
And
you can speak to this much better than I can. I hear little bits and pieces from patients, but just hugely unsettling, I imagine.
Well, it's, the problem is Well, number one, there's messaging. There's no, like we have discussed the American Heart Association,
Yeah.
which you say is pretty primarily a research organization,
Yeah.
right? But again, going back, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. Tell everybody else too. I for a while I did podcasts for heart attack survivor awareness and stuff like that. I did a podcast with a woman named Sally Crawley in the UK, and she told me this during the podcast, and I've never forgotten it. She said that when she was, she had a heart attack, and when she left the hospital, she was just kind of like, "Hey, goodbye, good luck," and it was devastating. 6 weeks later, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. When she left the hospital from breast cancer, she said she got so many support calls from cancer support and awareness groups. She felt like, quote, this is a quote, she was wrapped in a warm, cozy blanket. Now, why doesn't that infrastructure exist for heart attack survivors?
That's a great question. I think it does in little bits, but not in the same comprehensive package that we have with cancer. I think there is this entity called cardiac rehab, which I believe you did,
Right.
if
Yes, I
I
did.
remember correctly. It's a little bit of that. It's an amazing program that gets heart attack survivors and folks who've had bypass surgery and valve disease access to these really super knowledgeable cardiac nurses and exercise physiologists, for 3 times a week for 12 weeks. And honestly, we in the hospital focus a lot on pills and things, but
Right.
as far as a bang for the buck, cardiac rehab is way more bang for the buck than about anything we do in the hospital, because it just provides so much more one-on-one feedback to people. It provides an outlet for folks to meet, just as you're suggesting, other people who've had similar issues and compare notes. And to do that every day, like, oh, I was thinking about this today. We're elusive, us doctors. It's hard to get at us.
Right.
Any chances? It would be great if it were otherwise, but our system isn't set up that way. So cardiac rehab is like that, and it gets you a whole bunch of chances to talk to folks who can give you thoughtful answers. And there's definitely a lot of answers out there after you've had a heart attack, as you imagine, but not all of them are the most.
True. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I will say cardiac rehab. At the time I thought it was kind of dumb.
Yep. That's fine.
I thought, my heart, I thought it was, I thought it was going and I would be stressed, and I'd be stress tested all the time.
Yeah.
I went in, I was able to do everything pretty easily. But then I realized like 4 or 5 months later, it really had nothing to do with physical therapy. It had to do with emotional therapy. It was about you being in a safe place and exercising to prove to yourself you could do it again. And your heart wasn't going to kill you. And you had people there monitoring you where you were doing it. All right. We're going to take some, God help us, some comments. Aaron Keene says, I mean, it doesn't hurt my feelings that a doctor has to wait a bit, considering the hours I've spent in the waiting room. I think they were referring to the show being a couple of minutes late. So,
I don't take it personally. I feel terrible when people wait in the waiting room for a long time. That's terrible.
Ooh, Charles Hullett says, my dad died of a heart attack when he was 44. Let's cover this for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that there is a Facebook group called I think it's under 55 heart attack survivors. That's specifically for people under 55. There is a lot more people having heart attacks at much earlier ages now.
There are. And Charles, I really apologize for your loss. I think when I hear about things like this from patients and folks, I do 44 is really young. 44 is really young for any age, whether this was in 1960 or 2024. When I hear my dad or my mom had a heart attack, really any time under 50, I do start to think about family things. I think those are good opportunities for us to educate people and suggest that they quit smoking if they're smoking. Not, again, one of those things, not very sexy, but probably more important than any medicine we will ever prescribe. And then to
Right.
get in touch with a doctor, a provider, get checked out, get some basic stuff like get your blood pressure checked, um, get your cholesterol checked, because some of those things can truly save your life if you identify them early and get them treated. And there's some of the really hard things out there. Those are some of, along with smoking and diabetes, really, those are our two other principal risks for heart disease and vascular disease. And we have really effective treatments for them. And unfortunately, they are totally painless. They don't cause any symptoms most of the time, and you can go for years and decades and not know about them.
So, one of the things I'd like to point out is this: whenever this comes up, the younger people having heart attacks in our groups or people that I talk to, invariably somebody always says, "Did they get the COVID jab?" And when my normal response to this is this, and I want to put this in here just so it's on the record. Uh, the the trend of younger people having heart attacks, it didn't just start during COVID.
No,
It started 10, 20 years ago. Probably largely, he's not going to say this because he's a nice guy and doctor, but I'm going to say it. It's because our diet, mostly because our diets are shit. We eat a lot of garbage. And secondly, because we have sedentary lifestyles that just, we're not exercising. We don't do things. We don't keep ourselves in shape. And, if you don't, everybody knows this. If you don't use it, you lose it. And that includes your muscle, and your heart is a muscle. So
yeah,
there you
I
go.
will. I will definitely second that. I mean, when you look at rates of heart attack and vascular disease in Western countries, however you want to define that, countries that eat lots of processed foods that are high in salt and high in sugar and increase your risk for high cholesterol and diabetes and high blood pressure, it turns out that our rates of vascular disease have really been just accelerating really throughout this century. And you look at equivalent groups of folks in places that don't, depending on how you would like to say it, enjoy or are free from some of our Western vices. There are heart attacks there, but they occur at a very different rate than they do here. And just as John is suggesting, I think many of these are preventable with lifestyle. Is that the most fun thing ever? No, but
Yeah.
it's very doable.
All right. Fred Sacco says history of heart issues, cancer, and dementia in my family. Maybe I'll get the dementia and forget about the other two. Thank you, Fred. Linda Wilkins says a friend of mine who is a judge was having a heart attack. He drove himself to the hospital having a cigarette while driving, so he did not pass out.
Dude, that sounds resourceful, but do not do that. Call 911. There are trained medics who are happy to drive you to the nearest emergency facility. If you think you're having a heart attack, please, pretty please, do not drive yourself to the hospital.
Okay, we're going to go back to Fred. We're going to do two in a row. I'm going to read two in a row here. 07, I thought I was having a heart attack, weight on chest, each doctor regressively. I went from dead at 32 to maybe okay to why are you here? I don't trust the system. Okay, that's that guy. Now, Blaine Kohl says, my doctor misdiagnosed me with heat stroke. I ended up having an emergency procedure at the hospital a month later. Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Troponin.
Yes.
Troponin is a enzyme?
It is an enzyme.
Or a protein? It's an enzyme.
Protein.
Okay.
Both that lives exclusively within our heart muscle.
Okay. And
once upon
how long has it been around? I mean, not how long has it existed, obviously, in human hearts, but how long is it's a biomarker for a heart attack.
You're going to try to draw me into an evolution debate there.
We could do that.
The troponin in its current form has been around for a couple of decades. Not that long ago, we checked some other enzymes, some other proteins that were in muscles, they were very much less sensitive for heart muscle damage. And so they made it a little harder. If you had ran a particularly or did a particularly vigorous workout, let's say you're at Iowa and your wrestling coach puts you in a vinyl suit in a hot room for the wrestling team.
Okay.
It might be hard to tell using these primitive biomarkers whether you just have muscle damage from overexerting yourself or you have heart muscle damage. And scientists over the last several decades have come across these group of enzymes called troponins that don't live in our skeletal muscle, so our arms, legs, muscles we use to do things, but only live exclusively in heart muscle. And we have assays where we can detect them at really minute amounts these days, very precisely. And it's really been a revolution in heart attack diagnosis. And even speaking to this commenter, the prior commenter, not that long ago, even as soon as 2007, we had some tests that could make it a little ambiguous whether there was heart muscle damage or not. These days, I think we're doing better. And I think we're doing a better job being systematic about how we use these things. And I think that's allowing us to really find some of these heart attacks that were small, but real, and conversely rule out some of the stuff that formerly was called a heart attack because we as physicians, for a whole bunch of reasons, are worried about missing something. So we frequently jump to the most severe thing, as was suggested before. And then when it's not, we're happy. But that doesn't always leave our patient with a happy feeling when
right.
someone said, oh, I think you're having a heart attack. Oh, wait, we're good. But actually, the test came back and we're good. And I think that's where the patient-doctor interface kind of runs up against each other sometimes, and that we both have different goals. The patient wants to know what's wrong so they can feel better. But we want to know what's wrong and make the patient better too. But there are some systemic reasons why we want to make sure just the big bad things are out of the way first.
Okay. This is why I don't look at the comments, because you start looking at the comments and everything goes awry. Charles Hullett says, I've heard that diagnosis was one of the most difficult parts of healthcare. Is there not a lipoprotein test or something like that?
Oh, well, for what?
I don't know. My sister-in-law, who is an oncology nurse, asked about testing for some kind of lipo. I don't know shit about this. I just say big words and people think I know things like it's in your DNA. Your RNA was off to the side a little bit. You know what I mean?
Tests are both more plentiful and mostly better these days, but they're definitely more plentiful. And
they are okay.
For sure. And I think there are some like troponin that we've, for the most part, done a good job using to good effect. I think there are cholesterol tests that are very accurate and really let us know how we're doing as far as modulating someone's risk factors, as far as their risk of having a heart attack or stroke in the future. There is a series of lipoprotein tests that have to do with your cholesterol, but they're out there. We don't know what to do with a lot of these tests, though, because we have them for research purposes. We don't have amazing drugs that treat all of these things. But I think when we stick to the basics, not smoking, treating diabetes, getting your blood pressure down, eating healthy, exercising, we actually do better, I think, than sometimes we get kind of sucked off into the morass of doing a lot of tests, and that doesn't always keep our patients at the center and kind of address the things that they want us to address for them, which is usually just feeling better or feeling more confident that they're not going to have a heart attack in the future or whatever.
Right. Well, it took me, 2 years, a year and a half? I think it was a year and a half that I kept coming back to the hospital and thinking, oh shit, I have a problem. And then I'd get put in the ambulance and Then I get taken to the 212 center and they take one look at my EKG and they go, "You're going downtown."
Yeah.
And it took a while. I
Yeah.
think you told me at once. I think the last time that I did this trip, you told me if you think you're having a problem, go and exert yourself, and if you have pain, then you go to the ER. And I have told that to other heart attack survivors, and a lot of them will go, "What do you mean I'm going to exert myself? I'll kill myself." And I'm thinking, you got to figure it out. You either have to build confidence that
Yeah.
you're not going to die or you're going to live a miserable life. That's where the anxiety and anger and depression parts come in. Uh, I mean, you're angry that your heart killed you. My dad died gentlemen, my dad died of pancreatic cancer at the age of 54. I was 12 years old. My entire life, I was terrified of cancer because I basically watched him starve to death because it was 1974. And what did they do for pancreatic cancer in 1974?
Unfortunately, very
Not,
little. It was a terrible.
yeah, it was terrible. And my entire life, I lived in fear. Oh my God, I've got cancer. And then at the age of 54, what happened? I'd fall over dead from a heart attack. You know why? Do you know why, Dr. Kohl? Because God has a sense of humor like that. That's the thing. That's the thing, man. Okay, because he's kind of, he's kind of a wacky God sometimes.
He can be. I do want to return to that was one of my goals for this podcast is that
What's
I think your comments about after a heart attack, I'm sure I've said it to you like 5 times over the years. Like people who are young and pretty healthy who have heart attacks, they're gonna feel stuff and they're not gonna be sure what it is. And they're gonna get checked out. And it's gonna be whatever you want to call it. Nothing or a false alarm or however it's described. And I think we don't do a good enough job giving people the permission to say, like, that's okay. That is part of the learning process. And just like you're describing, everyone's got to come up with their own way to get comfortable with their new reality after having a heart attack. Because life is different after.
It is. It is for a lot of people. It is getting punched in the face with your own mortality, and that's hard to take. Tiger Shark Driver says, "I've lived in Israel and France. Very much different quality of food."
Yeah, and we've done, not me personally, but eminent researchers and doctors have done studies where they compare Western diet, honestly, a diet that's way healthier than most of what's eaten in the U.S., to a Mediterranean diet, a lot of which you'll get in France and Israel. Lots of fresh fruits and vegetables and whole grains and very much smaller portions of fish and lean meat. And just eating healthier is more healthy for you. Less strokes, less episodes of heart failure. Most people just feel better because they're eating better.
Not eating crap.
Yeah, but that's easy to say in the abstract, and there's lots of folks in the U.S. whose only place to get stuff to eat is the bodega or the gas station, and everything's in a package and everything's processed, and it's hard. But I Highlander, I mean, great. Buy the stuff that's local, whether it's organic or not. If the farmer down the road is growing it, there's 100% chance that is healthier and healthier for you than anything at Whole Foods.
Okay, Jason Reeves says, "Okay, doc, still with the 1 aspirin a day over 50. How about the 50 plus multivitamin? How about the 1,000 milligrams of ibuprofen that I chase the aspirin with?"
I would say we're actually changing a little bit on aspirin. I think there were decades when we said that aspirin was just good for everyone in every circumstance. We've actually moved away from that, in that most people who have, and I can't emphasize this enough because the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force did such a horseshit job with messaging this 4 or 5 years ago when it came out. It created just utter confusion. But if you have not had a heart attack or stroke before, if you are a healthy person, taking aspirin probably doesn't benefit you. So again, if you are a healthy person who's not had a heart attack or stroke, talk to your healthcare professional, your doctor, but you probably don't need to be taking aspirin, period. If you had a heart attack or a stroke, totally different ballgame. You should totally keep taking aspirin. And I think that's where some of the confusion came a couple of years ago, is that they really were excited to get out there that a lot of people should stop taking aspirin, and they forgot that all these people are taking aspirin because of a real reason. And it got out in the news that the U.S. government says you don't need to be taking aspirin anymore. And for a lot of people, that was very true. But for a lot of people, it was also not true. About the multivitamin, if the multivitamin makes you feel good, great. There's nothing wrong with it. Does it make you live longer? Almost certainly not. But if it makes you feel good, totally do it. Here in the U.S., we have such a variety of food at our disposal. If you eat fruits and vegetables, you're getting all the vitamins you need.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Uh,
You and I have shared a lot of books over the
Yeah.
years. Do you remember the book Snowball in a Blizzard?
Yeah,
You do?
I do.
Okay. I was it Stephen Hatch wrote that book?
That sounds right to me.
Okay. Just for the people that Snowball in a Blizzard refers to, and I hope I get this right. It refers to what a radiologist is looking at when they look at a mammogram. Because when they're looking at a mammogram, they're trying to determine if maybe some splotches or stuff are actual breast cancer, indications of breast cancer versus just being normal tissue. Is that a good explanation?
I think that's a very solid explanation.
And the entire book, I think for me, I'm going to sum it up. And again, I'm not a doctor, even though, let's see, Jason Reeves says John should be a doctor by now for all the time he spent in treatment. I am a doctor. I'm a doctor of love. There you go. Okay, where's it? Snowball in a Blizzard. When I read that book, you know what? The one takeaway I had as a layperson, because between the time I had my heart attack, got out of the hospital, it took you people 9 months to diagnose me with a brain injury, for God's sakes. And you remember me yelling at you? You kept telling me to be patient.
Which time?
I remember. Okay, this time. You remember told me, number one, you said, let's see, what'd you say? I think one time I said, why do I feel this way? Why do I keep getting these headaches? And you said, well, you think maybe it was because you were dead for a while, and you were really emphatic about that. And then what was the other time? You told me brains are hard.
Brains
You
are
couldn't
hard.
help me. Brains are hard. Yeah, you
Brains
told
are
me
really
that.
hard. We probably understand very little about hearts in the grand scheme of things, but compared to brains, we understand a ton about hearts. We can treat hearts. We can rewire them. We can open the plumbing. We have very little of that in the brain.
Yeah.
We're decades to a century behind in understanding how the brain works because it's just so much more complex. Let's be honest. I would love to say the thing that I work on for my life is the most complex, interesting thing ever, but the brain is just a whole nother level of complexity that we haven't wrapped our own medical brains around yet.
I remember also you kept telling me to be patient. And one point I told you to take your patience and shove it up your fucking ass. Yeah. I do remember that. Okay, Snowball in a Blizzard. When I read that book, my takeaway from it was this. There is so much of medical diagnosis and so much the doctors that are dealing with that are percentages. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like I take a statin. There's a lot of people that think statins are the worst damn thing ever. They're the pill of the devil. Yeah. We have these arguments all the time. But it's not about curing your problem. It's about making the percentages of the second heart attack lessened.
Right.
And a lot of medical treatment has to do with those percentages. Fill us in on that.
There's just a lot of uncertainty out there. And I think to your point about treatment, I think that's the hard thing in discussing either therapies or treatments with patients, and that I can tell you with good authority based on really high quality data done by folks who care and who know what they're doing, that if we treat you with a statin after your heart attack, we probably lower your risk of having another heart attack by, we'll say, 20%. I think that's actually a fairly reasonable number, but it's a nice round one. But 20% of what? What was the first number? Like, what was your risk at the beginning? And I think we all as humans want certainty in life, and we want our doctors and our, everyone, our lawyers and our priests and our plumbers to tell us, like, here's how it is. It's going to work. I know it's going to work. And as much as I would like to say we can do that, we can't. We can give you our best advice about how to decrease the risk, just as you're suggesting. But we can't, on an individual level, pretend that we know that this is going to prevent a thing in you. We are, as physicians, we're seeing you, no offense, as a group of 100 patients.
Right.
And I know that if I treat my next 100 patients with a statin, 20 fewer are going to have a heart attack. But there is a chance that you, John Johnson, may not be in that group of 20.
Right.
But I don't know, we don't know how to pick out which of those people are going to be the lucky 20 and which are not. So we treat them all. And I do think in medicine as a whole, we need to be a little bit more honest about that. It's a harder kind of conceptual discussion to have with people who, I think, in our little compressed medical visits that we keep them to, they want to hear, like, this is
they want Dr. House.
Yes, exactly.
They want Dr. House because Dr. House in a 45-minute show has the most esoteric diagnosis on planet Earth and fixes the problem. And that's it.
Yeah. And then he goes to, like, the lab and, like, develops the cure and injects it in the arm. And then they're running the marathon or marrying their sweetheart the next day.
And we, by that comparison, what the hell is wrong with you people?
Well, it's a great question.
All right. Kevin says, get your heart checked. It saved my life. Had aortic valve replacement last year and only 40 years old.
Yeah.
Well, Kevin, I'm glad you're still with us.
Great job getting your heart checked.
There are a lot of, I guess I want you, listen, when I wrote my books, I put a lot of stuff in there from the male perspective. For both of my books, I had 2 female editors who were absolutely unbelievable editors. And they pointed out to me, stop making male references. And I'm going to make a male reference right now. And you'll see how stupid this is. I know a lot of men that won't go see a doctor because they just don't like doctors. They don't trust doctors. They don't want to deal with doctors. They think doctors are lying to them. And then you take all that and you take the male out of it. And it's true for both sexes. And that's where the stupid part of just blaming men for that is. But, I recently, I was around a guy for a week that, he could barely walk. He had a cane and everything. And I said, have you ever thought about going to the doctor and seeing about maybe a knee replacement? And his answer was, I don't like doctors. And I thought, your quality of life could be actually better. I didn't. And I'd known I was sitting at a dinner one night with a guy and he said, yeah, I ride my bike a lot like you do. And he goes, when I get done, I have a lot of chest pain. And I said, well, have you gone to a doctor? And he goes, no, why would I? And I'm like, what the hell?
Just
the problem.
My person would not object to me sharing this story with you. So my brother-in-law's dad, healthy guy, vigorous guy. My brother-in-law, also a physician. He is a biker, and healthy guy, had donated his kidney to a friend as an altruistic donor. Really healthy guy. You got to be really healthy to get through that process. He spent a year, essentially the story you just told. he talked to us like, I go biking, and he's like changing his handlebars. He's doing all these things because every time he goes biking, it hurts, and he like can't quite figure out why. And then he had something one day that I think was not while he was biking, or didn't fit that pattern that his mind created. That this is this is related to whatever I'm doing, and went in and had to have bypass surgery.
Yeah.
And it's really common. Our minds are really amazing at making up these stories to tell us that things are okay.
Right. Okay. You know what? Where do we go from here? Let me think about it. Let's go with, let's see, Highlander gun again. I took a multivitamin one time, and the next thing I knew, I was running, jumping, playing volleyball with beautiful women. No, that was a soda commercial. Yes, that's pretty. I think that's how it goes. Linda Wilkins says Scotch is all you need to live longer.
Not that long ago, until just very recently, we used to be able to tell people that it was healthy to have a glass of alcohol or two a day. I think just recently that was maybe found to be not quite as accurate as we had hoped, but I still maintain that everything in moderation, maybe except for cigarettes, probably is fine.
Oh, wait, I didn't mean to put that. You know what? Wait, I didn't mean to put that up yet. I still am trying to get used to some. People make fun of me. You're the IT guy, and you don't even know how your platform works. Let's see. We're 47 minutes into this. Let's see. James Boardman says, I saw a cardiologist 7 years ago and found 15% blockage. He sent me to get a sleep study, and I found out I had apnea. Sleep doctor put me on a CPAP, and my issues were resolved. Well, that's good.
Great, James. I would say that.
Wait,
that's a pretty good pun, whoever that was.
Okay, well, we'll get back to that in a minute.
I think that is the other thing I think that going to a provider can really get you, is that a 15% narrowing in a heart artery would generally think is probably not enough to cause problems. But I think that gives, just going to a provider and getting checked out, gives whomever a chance to look at the whole situation and realize, okay, and probably hear your story and understand that even if you got to a heart doctor first, or a sleep doctor, or a general practitioner, an internist, maybe you're here first, but you're telling me some things that maybe need some more work by someone else. And so I think that's where just interfacing with someone in the medical system can trust is a really nice starting point. That's hard to find sometimes. But.
Robert Vavra says, I have had a pacemaker since 2008 due to an enlarged heart. I have had a device check every 3 months. It takes months to reschedule a cardiologist appointment if the doctor or I can't make it. Is this a shortage issue, or is there an issue with healthcare? What the hell is going on with this?
I think it's probably a healthcare system issue most of the time. It's probably a shortage issue some of the time. I can't speak to every practice, but I think our systems aren't built or constructed in a way that pays money for the, I would say, important parts of being a doctor, like sitting down and talking to people. And unfortunately, it pays more money for Robert's device check.
Yes.
Robert's pacemaker almost certainly is a modern one and has Wi-Fi, and he's got a little thing in his house that can actually wirelessly send information from his pacemaker to his clinic, just like our patients can send their pacemaker device to their data to our clinic. And I am not commenting on the wisdom or lack thereof of these choices, but things like that, newfangled things, often, unfortunately, get paid by insurers to the same amount as me sitting down with you in a clinic and actually discussing your issues. especially if those issues don't involve a test or a new medicine. And I think sometimes people miss the part of medicine that once was there, where you guys, you knew someone and you got
Right.
to sit down with them and ask them, hey, what's going on, or what do you think about this thing? And it didn't have to be this special once a year event just to get in there for that one little chance to ask every possible question.
Right. Okay, Vince Watson says for or against Mary Jane marijuana in moderation, of course.
I think that's a fine question. I think we don't know yet, actually, and I think I do. This has nothing to do with the perspective of my employer organization, but I think we are still learning about the effects of marijuana and THC and all of the other products out there, including how you take it, whether you ingest it as a beverage or a gummy, or you smoke it, or like any of those things. I think we're kind of where we were with tobacco in the 60s, in that I think there are some places, especially where there could be some benefits, but I don't think we know yet. And so I think if you are going to use it safely and in moderation, just as Vince suggests.
Okay, Husker Bob says, Dr. Lou, has John ever called you Dr. Shitass?
Not to my face, but it's sky's the limit.
That term is, well, not doctor, but that term is something I use quite a bit. Apparently, that other people do not say the word shit ass. It's a lost art of insult. Okay.
Is that a Nebraska thing? That is not.
It could be. It could be. Okay. Do you remember
about a Nebraskaite as a potential vice president?
Oh God, we're not going there.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we're not. There's too much of that shit everywhere else.
Okay.
Okay. Do you remember? I think it was in 2021 when I asked you, can I do a polar plunge? What your response was?
I roughly, I know, I don't remember exactly, but
oops,
I'm sure it was something to the effect of, yeah, sure, if you want.
Okay, let's look at this. Your question about a polar plunge is a good one that I've never been asked before. My off the cuff response is that there is inherent risk in life. Remember that phrase. So I don't see why not. Look at the end of this thing, though. So does. Okay, well, I agree. The physiology professor that rapid increases in heart rate do slightly increase risk for cardiac events. So does involvement in a car accident or any other unexpected life event. Even though it will make it a little bit more painful, getting them more slowly or at least avoiding the cannonball may make some sense. A tough Nebraskan like yourself can tolerate slowly sliding into a frozen lake. Just think of all the psychological pain you've been subjected to during Husker football games since Tom Osborne retired. Lou.
Is that not true, though?
I'm just going to leave this up here so people can read the bottom of that for a little bit longer. Well, it's, that's cycle, well, it is true. God damn it. Dr. Lou Kohl is a Wisconsin alum, as he's reminded me quite a few times.
And that's part of the reason that I'm able to say that with such authority. I mean, I've watched some of those brutal. I did wear a special shirt just for you.
Oh my God. What the hell? I should have known this was going to come out. It always does.
I mean, it's red. It's red.
I did. It is red. I will say this. When I read this, I mean, the bottom line stayed with me forever. But this other line, I have told people this, and I've said that many times to other people, that there is an inherent risk in life. That is something that we seem to forget. And it's something that, when I talk to other heart attack survivors, first of all, for people that don't know, I've done 2 polar plunges. The first one I did when it was 4 degrees out. at real temperature, not wind chill. Wind chill was probably -20. I mean, it was nasty. There's a video on YouTube that I did after that. I wouldn't do it when it's that cold again because my God, that was just a little bit too much. And then I did one last year that was, I mean, it was almost warm. It was like 30 or something. I mean, it was, you know, not that big a deal. But when I tell people I do these things, they're always like, "You are insane. There's something wrong with you." And I usually look at them and go, what are you going to do? Listen, we've already talked about anxiety and depression and anger about going through trauma. It doesn't, not just heart attack, but any kind of trauma in your life. You can't just quit living. No. Because if you stop living, it's going to eat you up. We're all going to spend time in darkness. And it's a matter of whether or not you control that darkness or it controls you. And I think that line that you said to me, inherent risk in life, was a huge factor. And I use it all the time now where, you know, you don't control what happens to you.
No, and
you really don't.
No, I agree. And I'm glad that resonated with you because we get asked things like this all the time. Can I do, you know, I had my event, can I do X or Y? And I think there are official answers.
Yeah.
But then there are the real answers is that we all have our things in life that drive us or excite us or just make us happy. And I think the problem with the medical answer is the medical answer does not weigh that in any way because we can't know you. And if that thing, whatever it is important to you and we can help you do it in a safer way, even if it has a little risk, you should probably do it because it will make you a happier person.
Yeah. I mean, it was a challenge doing the polar play, especially the first one. I mean, it was a huge challenge. And I knew that I was going to have problems with it. And when I rounded the corner, first of all, you damn near freezing to death. But when I rounded the corner to get to the jump point where you actually jump in the lake, and I did not slide slowly in the lake. Good God, what the hell's wrong with you people? That would have seemed like torture, you know? But I knew when I rounded the corner that I was going to have a problem and that I had to focus on one of the women it was one of my colleagues that I was next to. And I knew that I started getting tunnel vision. You know, everything, I couldn't hear anything around me. And I knew that when she jumped, I had to jump or I'd stand there and then I'd become one of those people. Everybody starts going, yeah, you can do it. I didn't want to be that guy. Anyway, we're going to finish this off. How long do you have?
I should probably head out pretty soon to see the kids as they go to bed.
Okay, then we're going to go here. Blaine Kohl says, a dent in your cranium or just depression? No, it's a dent in my cranium. For God's sakes. Let's see. Highlander Gun, what's that dent in John's head, Doc? And then let's see. I think there was one more. No. So we'll go back to this. I did write a book. Where the hell is it? I did write, this is an ebook that's up on Amazon. The Mystery of the Dent in My Head. Here's the story behind this. I do actually have a big dent in my head. It's this literally.
I can vouch. I have felt it. There's legitimately a dent in John's head.
What a hell of a thing to say. Nobody knows where this dent came from. My wife is insistent it happened in the hospital. The running story, there's nothing, by the way, you know, I have 400 pages of hospital notes from you. There's nothing in there about somebody maliciously denting my head. There's at one point we thought that there was something about me falling off a toilet. But I mean, to put a dent like I have in my head, I would have had to stand up on something and dive into the floor.
I was going to say, that seems unlikely, even if you toppled off the toilet.
Yeah. One of the working theories we've constantly been running with over the years is that when I died, I sloped back in a chair and they put me on the floor of this office I was in, and that my colleague and friend Bill kicked me in the head repeatedly so that he could kick me out of his office and close the door and pretend I wasn't there. So we've gone with that for years now, that Bill has kicked me in the head to the point. You'll love this. I mean, to the point that sometimes on Zoom meetings, I'll be working with somebody new, Like, for example, I met this new person that we were working with, very nice young woman. And Bill starts out by saying, "This is John. He died on my floor. And he's probably going to tell you that I kicked him in the head repeatedly, but that never really happened." And he doesn't give any explanation for this whatsoever. And he keeps going with this, about, him kicking me head or not kicking me in the head. And this poor woman is just sitting there going, "Oh my God, what did I sign up for?" So the whole story is in the Mystery of the Dent in My Head book. But to this day, Dr. Lou Kohl denies any involvement
I
in
continue to
denting my
deny
head.
involvement.
What's that?
I continue to deny involvement.
Yes.
I continue.
That is one of the reasons I grew my hair out. Because I'm terrified of if it all falls out or something, then people, if I ever have a bald head, then there's a giant dent and people going, where did that come from? And I'll go, "I don't know." And that's just the dumbest thing you could possibly ever say to anybody. You don't even know how come there's a big dent in your head. No, I don't. I wasn't there. What the hell do you want from me? All right. Do we have anything else to cover with heart attack awareness? What do you think? How can we make up for people not knowing about the emotional fallout of heart attack? How can we help?
I think we can keep talking about it to people. I think we can advertise it to people who have heart attacks. That I would love it. We don't do this, but I would love it if seeing a talk therapist or some kind of mental health provider was sort of part of the package, in the same way that getting an aspirin and a statin and a nicotine replacement patch. I think that would be an amazing thing. That mental health providers are in such short supply almost everywhere. I think that would be challenging to make happen. But you could do it virtually, or you could do it somehow that was easy for folks. I think that would be a great starting point. And then kind of connecting people to, whether it's through cardiac rehab or something else, a group of other folks who've been through it, so they can really say, "Hey, I'm not the only one who has these feelings, like I'm really scared right now, or I'm really anxious, or I'm really sad."
Well, I will say this: there are groups on Facebook that are pretty good about providing support to other people. I'm in a few TBI survivor groups, and I'm in a few heart attack survivor groups, and it's kind of a safe place for people to just come ask questions about. I think the biggest key to most of this stuff is people not feeling like they're alone. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of the people will come in and they'll say, "I had a heart attack last month. I'm so full of anxiety and I can't sleep. I can't do anything. What do I do about this?" And we all answer, "We've all gone through this. You are not alone." And that's probably the biggest, I think, help that anybody can have right off the bat. Obviously, there's a lot of other things you can do, but just letting people know that, this is kind of normal. This is par for the course, is what happens, and you're not alone, and don't feel bad about thinking you're going crazy or something. All right.
For me interviewing you, and what package would that? What would be the best package for that from a patient standpoint? Like, how would that be delivered? Like, whether it's Facebook group or a thing that comes from the medical system, or we look at things from a very medical system centered focus.
Right.
I'm not sure that's the best way to do that.
Well, I guess you look at, cancer. Everybody, you wear pink. Susan K. I can't remember the name now. Everybody has that awareness because, let's face it, everybody likes boobs, and breast cancer is terrifying, right?
That's true.
And there's nothing like that I know of for heart attacks.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's no, there hasn't been an organization that's that. We have walks. There are walks for heart and all of those things, but you're right. They don't. I don't think they've gotten the same, whether it's publicity or attention or embrace,
right?
That heart disease, that cancer, especially breast cancer, has.
All right. Do we need anything else?
Oh, well, you're running this show.
I am. Do I look like a guy in charge?
Possibly.
Okay. You know what? I tell you what. I'm gonna let you go,
Thanks,
and
John.
I'm gonna stick around for 10 more minutes maybe and talk a little bit about Nebraska football and what the
Okay.
bad people of Wisconsin are not going to do to us anymore after this year.
This could be the year. I say that every year, but this could be the year.
It could be the year. Okay.
Thanks for
Thank
having me
you
on,
for.
John. Great to see you again.
Th- Love you. Take care of
Yeah.
yourself.
Talk to you again soon.
All right. Bye. Okay. Like I said at the beginning of this, I realize that everybody wants to talk about football, but I don't. I don't feel like I would be. I don't know. I don't feel like I would be doing a good job as a survivor. Part of the things I want to do is raise awareness of the fact that it is tough to survive. It's tough. It'd been easier to die years ago. It really would, and I wouldn't care, but everybody else would be like, my wife would be like, "What the hell happened to him? Why'd he go away?" We all know that pain, and I would like to do my part for making people have a better life after they've gone through extreme trauma, because I already have. All right, I don't have it in front of me, but Nebraska released a depth chart for the UTEP game. And I just, I think that the biggest comment I have is that I know that in the press conference today, uh, Matt Rule said that he didn't feel like any running back has really stood up above anybody else. But if you'll notice the depth chart, Ramir Johnson's at the top of the depth chart. And I like that, because I've said this many, many times that I think Ramir Johnson is probably he's one of the people that I don't think people give credit to for being explosive and being a good football player, because he's been injured so much. I'm really anxious, or not anxious, but I'm excited to see what we look like against UTEP, and then we can actually start, talking really about football instead of doing so much speculation. Because God help me, the off season after a while it just gets, oof, it gets along. I mean, you can only do, five standout players and things like that. So many years in a row before you're like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. The other thing that I would say about the depth chart is, did people notice how big our wide receivers are? I mean, like all of them. Good grief. I should probably put it up in front of me. Okay. Let's do it. Just give me a minute. I was really nervous about talking to Dr. Kohl. He has been a damn good doctor for me over the years. And I really, honestly, I have yelled at him quite a few times during I have an annual cardiology appointment where I get checked out. Sometimes I like this year, I did a stress test. I'll do a cardiogram, things like that, if I feel like I have a problem. The number one thing I learned from cardio rehab was, well, there's two things I learned from cardiac rehab. Number one, to build confidence that my heart wasn't going to kill me again. And number two, that if you have a problem and you wait, you're only making things worse. And I've heard a response that I'm going to share with you that from a number of people, that they'll just go, well, that I'll just die. And the problem with that is, no, you won't just die. They keep you alive, and then you'll be like sitting in a wheelchair for the rest of your life with an oxygen tank. Who wants to live like that? That's why you need to take care of yourselves and, walk 30 minutes a day or do something to get up and move. All right, back to wide receivers. My God, I'll stop being so preachy. Maybe, I don't know. All right, let's see. I'm going blind too. Isaiah Nayor, 6'4", 220. Jamal Banks, 6'4", 220. Slot, Janaran Bonner. Is it Janaran? I know I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Anyway, Janaran Bonner, 6'2", 220. Thomas Fedoni, 6'6", 255. That guy, I think we're going to see a breakout season from Thomas Fedoni. I love that guy. Nate Borkircher, 6'5", 250. Luke Lindenmeyer, all tight ends, 6'3", 250. Jalen Lloyd is the tiniest one of them, maybe, at 5'10", and that's still, for a wide receiver, is pretty decent size. Malachi Coleman, 6'5". Alex Bullock, 6'2". those are a lot of big guys at receivers, and I hope we just beat the shit out of people with them. Let's see, what else did I notice? Minnie, do you want to come on for a minute? Shake your head. Okay.
Hi.
Hi. What did you notice about the depth chart? We're probably going to. By the way, I want to point something out. Corn Nation, we now pretty much have live shows almost every night of the week now. We got me on Monday. Andy Ketterson's still going to do a movie thing tomorrow night. I guess it'll be his last movie thing of the year. What do we got? Wednesday, Greg and Haas do some kind of overreaction thing. They're not sure if that'll always be live or not. Thursday, there's Minnie and Greg. I'll be there this week because Greg wants me there, and I need to pick on Greg anyway before the season starts.
Oh,
But
yeah.
we're your channel. Did you have anything when you saw the depth chart? Did you have any things that stuck
Yeah.
out at you?
Yeah. So did you see, yes, Ramir Johnson is listed at the top, but all of the running backs are or. Did you
Are
see
they?
that?
No.
Yeah.
The one I'm looking at doesn't list that.
Oh, it doesn't?
No. It lists
It has
Ramir.
him as number 1.
Well, I mean, it does say or over on the other side. They all
Oh, okay.
4 of them are ors, which,
Yeah.
to be
So,
honest with me is, I think there's a lot of people that have this thing where they go, you need a running back, give him the ball 20 times to get him into a rhythm. I'm okay with we're going to swap the guy in that best fits the situation we're in.
yep.
I think if you need to get into a rhythm, it's kind of like, that makes sense if you're going to run an offense where you're just like, we're going to run this play, and we're kind of like PJ Fleck at Minnesota. We're going to run nickel duo 38 times a game, and we don't give a shit, about all the other 15,000 plays that exist. I don't think we're going to see that out of Nebraska's offense. I think we're going to see a lot of different stuff. Yeah. What else
Yeah, I
stood out?
like that. I like that they can just, plug them all in because they're all pretty much the same level. We haven't
They
had
are.
that in a long time. I mean,
That's true.
I'm excited about that. So we have some comments since you've been actually talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
James Boardman, since we've been talking about football, he says Ramir is both hungry and due.
I hope so.
I love Ramir. I think
I would love to see him prove himself so that maybe he can get picked up
yeah.
by the NFL, or at least get his name out there a little bit.
Yeah. And then you were talking about the wide receivers, and Jason Reeves says Rule finally getting long wide receivers. So yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I know there's a lot of people out there that have that you got to run the ball in November kind of thing, but
Uh-huh.
I don't subscribe to that. I think that you need to be multiple. One of the questions I asked on Twitter was, what do you think our run to pass ratio is going to be this year? And that's going to be really interesting to me.
What do you think it's going to be, John?
Well, but run the fine ball. I question, is this going to be really needed this year if we have those big ass wide receivers? Do we want to just I don't know. I think that what did you ask me? What do I think it's going to be?
Yeah, the run to throwing ratio.
55. I'm going to see 55-45.
Okay. 55 in
55%
running?
run, pass. Yeah, 55% running, 45% passing. I mean, it's not, some set. Look at the thing is we have talent. Okay, no, we don't have unrealized talent. We actually have talent. Jamal Banks and Isaiah Nair have proved that they can produce at other schools. So it's a matter of them producing at Nebraska. So you don't even need to apply the potential word to them. They've already done this. We have skill players all over the place, especially at receiver. It'd be really stupid if we didn't use them just because I'm wearing a run the fine ball shirt. I'm trying to change my attitude toward this new era. we're going into.
Oh, there you are.
You
My
see
internet
for
went
a
out for
while.
a
I
second.
thought, oh my God, she's shocked by what I'm saying.
Hi.
uh,
No,
Linda Wilkins.
you asked what Oh,
Linda Wilkins says
go ahead.
67 running, 33 passing. See, that's a run the fine ball person right
Oh,
there.
that's more running than I would think they would do.
Yeah.
I actually think they're gonna be heavy on the passing, including just short passes. We'll see.
Okay. Jason Reeves says, what's Andy going to do after the movie thing? I think on Tuesday nights, he's going to do football things. I think we're still, I asked Andy
Okay.
what he was going to, but you know what? I asked Andy earlier today, what are you going to do? Let's go see what he says. We'll just give you the answer in
What does
real
he
time
say?
as I'm seeing. This week, doing the last movie pod, then flipping the football next week.
Oh,
So he will be
I
doing
can't
a
wait.
football show on Tuesday nights as well. I kind of I let everybody run with what they want to do, right? So I'm not
You do.
I'm only dictatorial sometimes. All right. Anything else about the depth
But
chart?
yes, you asked if there was any surprises to me,
Yeah,
and I am totally surprised about Malachi Coleman.
that he's third. Oh, she's seizing up again. Minnie, come back to us. I'm guessing she's surprised that he's third on the depth chart because, he's third on the depth chart, that he's that far down the list. But Malachi Coleman was injured for a little bit, so uh, when you look at the fact that he's behind Jamal Banks, who has already racked up a production at another school, and he's behind Jalen Lloyd, who is a burner and has already showed that he can burn defenses deep. Uh, Malachi will probably. That's the thing with this. We have so many receivers, and we have, I think, so much talent at the receiver position. There went many that somebody doesn't get a B first on the depth chart. Last year, and I've said this before, looking at the game books, those are the official records of any game is called the game book. And looking at the participation, we played a lot of guys, and I don't expect us to just use like 11 or 12 people on offense or defense. I'm guessing we're going to use crap loads. So when you have people that are going like, do you think we'll have 1,000-yard rusher? Do you think we'll have 1,000-yard receiver? I don't think those things are likely just because I think they're going to split up the receptions and the carries between so many different people. Let's see. Jason Reeves says, good on Andy. His crowd will grow. Mark my words. Andy will also actually be in the press box all year. Sorry, we're trying to prepare for football season. And the first 2 weeks of every year are usually kind of chaotic because, none of us do this full time. And then I'm like, ugh. I don't know what that meant. I'm overrun and trying to get ready for football season. Let's see. I think Husker Bob says Coleman is not wearing 15 for some reason this year. That's because our come on, John, our Dylan Raiola is wearing 15 this year. Let's see, on the offensive line, Turner Corcoran at left tackle, then Grant Segrin, a redshirt freshman from Oakland, Nebraska. This was another thing I recognized about, I think, the offensive line. There's a good mix on this two deep of old and young. Like when you look at this, we have Corcoran senior, Justin Evans starting guard is a sophomore, Ben Scott's a senior, Micah Makuzu is a senior, Bryce Benhart's a senior. Those are our starting linemen. You've only got one sophomore in there. The rest are seniors. But in this two deep, you've got a redshirt freshman, a junior, a redshirt freshman at center, Sam Sledge, Tyler Knack at right guard, sophomore, and at right tackle, Gunnar Gotula at redshirt freshman. So it's a nice mixture of old and new. And one of the things I would expect that we're not always going to see the same five guys. We're going to see a lot of heavy, not maybe heavy, but decent rotation on the offensive line. And how they say, get old, stay old. And that's how you do that is you get guys on the field and get them in there and stuff like that. Jason Reeves, I keep using Jason here. Are you excited, John? Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I'll tell you what happened. Tiger Shark Diver says, John, I loved your latest bathroom video. Thank you. I just kind of did that off the cuff. That's what those are for. Here's the thing. Last Saturday morning, I had a big project that would have been a pain in the ass for like 2 months that I needed to finish. And I told myself I'm finishing this before football season. And Saturday morning, I literally got up at 5:30, started on the last phase on 6 a.m. and finished it at like 10:30 a.m. So it was a huge, getting that stress off my shoulder, off my back, stress out of my life. Okay. Minnie, are you back?
I'm back.
Okay.
I
We'll
hope
probably
that
just
doesn't happen again. Sorry about that.
we'll just try to do another 10 minutes. I
Okay.
think the last thing I said to you was anything else about the depth chart?
Yeah, and I was talking about Malachi Coleman.
Yeah.
I'm just really shocked that he's third on the depth chart. I would expect him to be up at least second, at least. But Roll did say that he has had a pulled kind of inner upper thigh area.
That would be groin.
Yes. So they're
You
kind
can
of
say
trying to
groin.
take it easy.
Say it for us. Just say groin.
It's it groin.
Okay.
There. I said it.
Good job. Okay.
Oh my
Well, I
gosh.
mean, I think they're all going to see the field. Let's see.
I hope so.
James Boardman says groin. Say it. There you go. Everybody's so encouraging.
I know.
I don't know anything else about this. Let's see. I
Yeah,
guess
then
I didn't really look too much at the defense because I'm not worried about the defense.
right,
And
right. It
I
seemed like it was a little lacking in the safeties depth.
w-
There's a guy
well,
I didn't even hear of, Derek something or other.
Derek Branch.
Yeah.
He's a junior from Lincoln.
Was he a
Malcolm
walk-on, right?
Hartzog. Malcolm Hartzog is the starting safety on
Okay.
his side. Then the other two are Deshaun Singleton and Kobe Bretz. So Derek Branch, yeah, I don't know much about him, but I've been paying mostly attention to the offense. And this is a good week for us to catch up on where everything is.
It
So
is true.
by Thursday night, you should do a whole profile on Derek Branch.
Okay. We'll get to know Derek. That is for sure. Hey, Jason
Evanception.
Reeves.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Evanception says DB room is light. Hey, hopefully no major injuries there. I know that people are worried about that position more than any other. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. And then he says Bly Hill is still hurt, apparently.
Yes, he
I'm
is.
just, yeah. I hope he gets better and we get to see him this year. I was really anticipating it because we heard so many great things about him.
Well, we have to do this one. Living in
Okay.
Omaha, David Matney says the forbidden word groin because we have to
It
include David
is.
in there. Jason Reeves says, hey, John, can I ask a memory question? Something like an old game or old movie. When you're reminded, does it come back and do new memories evolve? Just asking because your music knowledge on point.
Huh.
I will tell you this. Well, you know what? I've made it through this entire show without crying, which is a pretty amazing thing, honestly.
Mhm.
About I was having a lot of problems when I first started recovering. Okay. And I would have severe headaches to the point I'd have to lay in a dark room all day, one day a week without any light or anything. And I was constantly bitching at Dr. Kohl about this. But I think at one point, because I saw him frequently in the first few months, because I was pretty badly damaged. But he told me that there was another guy that came in around the same time I did, and he couldn't make any new memories. And I thought, I can't imagine what that life would be like. And since
Mhm.
then I've heard from so many other people, whether brain injury survivors or heart attack survivors, that I have had to deal with a lot. And I just, I always thank God that I was able to recover to this point. But I do not really have. I don't purposely remember a lot of things. Like I don't care what I had for lunch yesterday or what somebody said last week. You probably noticed that. But in terms of things I do care about, like dealing with my family or dealing with, well, you guys sometimes, things that are important to me, I usually don't have huge memory issues. But I never forgot him telling me about that guy not being able to make new memories because God, I have no idea. Everybody would say, whoops, everybody would say it's like 51st dates, but 51st dates was a comedy, not real life. So, okay, moving on. We'll probably go for
Yeah.
another 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes, and then I'll probably need to go. Oh
Okay.
my God. Look. If Tiger Shark Diver, if John doesn't like the Grateful Dead, my life is ruined.
Do you like the
I
Grateful Dead?
I hate to tell him this, but I have never been a deadhead. Never.
Oh my.
I
You
just,
just ruined his life?
I
You didn't
did.
lie?
That was my goal for tonight was to ruin somebody's life, and it had to be that guy. There's a few songs that they have that I appreciated, but I was never like I had short
A
hair for
deadhead.
most of my life as a business guy, so maybe I'll go back and become a deadhead for just like a week this season.
You never know.
He he says I will never recover from this.
Oh,
Oh God.
cheer up, TSD. It's it's game week.
Oh my God, Brent Wolf. Marvelous Marvin Sealer, clones quarterback that beat the Huskers in Ames that day. John was fake tossed. That's who it was. It was Marvin Sealer. Thanks for that memory, Brent. For God's sakes, man. Okay. Jason Reeves, we've got a lot of young talent in the DB room. He should be nervous, but they are all well coached. I think that is, he got rid of who was it? Evan Connor, the secondary coach we got rid of and brought in was it John Butler?
Oh, yeah.
I, I
John
still have to
Butler.
remember.
That's an
So
excellent memory. Look at you, John.
yeah, I'm starting to get
Wow.
the names down of the coaching staff. Uh,
Awesome.
oh my God, Jason Reeves. I ask these things because I'm in the early stages of dementia. And I stayed
Oh,
with my great aunt while she transitioned to the other dimension. She bought me books and expected me to talk about them. That sounds, well, I don't know your great
scary.
aunt, but that sounds like it might be torture in the first place. But, I know there's a lot more things they can do with dementia now that they used to be able to do. So
Mhm.
I wish the best for you in dealing with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the deal. Thursday night, Greg, Minnie, and I guess, right?
Yes, all three of us.
Okay, and we'll be doing what? What are we doing Thursday night?
We will be talking about our season predictions and gearing up for the game.
For the game, which how
For
many
the
sleeps
game.
to Husker football?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep at all. And I bet you most of the people here won't be able to sleep either. We're so excited.
It's going to be fun. What time is the game Saturday?
2:30.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay. So we got to watch other people lose. Charles Hullett says any score predictions. Should we do that or wait till
Ooh.
Thursday?
Oh, you can do you want to give a rough score? We won't hold you to it if you want to, like,
Okay, here's what I think about this. Off the cuff, when you look at Nebraska's defense in the first year of Tony White coaching the defense, Nebraska held teams to about 18 points a game. I think Utah, I I think I saw something on Twitter about the last shutout Nebraska had, and it was years ago, like 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. It's extremely difficult to shut teams out anymore. And the reason for that is number one, everybody has players. And number two, most of the rule changes over like the last 10 to 15 years have favored the offense to the point it's very difficult to play defense at all. So, James Boardman comes up with 31-3 Huskers. I like that score. I'd like to see something about, 42-14 would, I was going to say make me happy, but I think, that's the problem. I'm so full of Kool-Aid. It's going to be like, you didn't score enough. Maybe I should just shut up and be happy with a win. Evanception says 38-10 Big Red. Slow start, but we pull away in the third. Brent Wolf, Corn 44-20. That's a good score. And keep in mind when you're watching Nebraska this season, our offense doesn't have to be, when Scott Frost, that guy, came to Nebraska, I said we should be scoring 40 points a game because that's what I would have expected out of him because that's what his offenses could do before. We don't need to do that with this defense. We need to score more than the other team, obviously. But if we're scoring, I don't, off the top of my head, I don't remember what we scored last year. Hold on a second. No, I don't. Let's see. Was this? Okay. I don't have
the game?
Yeah, the scoring offense, I think last year was in the 20s, which is really terrible. Maybe it wasn't even the 20s.
Yeah.
But, if we score like 24 points a game, we're going to win the majority of our games based on what we saw last year from our defense. Did I see the Heron 11 says 70-0? That would be fun. I mean, we do have a lot of receivers. And here's the other thing that Matt Rule said that I thought was interesting. I think he said this today. He basically said, we're not going to take it easy in the first game. In other words, Dylan Raiola is going to come out and he's going to be expected to play as much as the playbook as he would in the 8th game as he's going to in the first. And I think that's a good approach to things because, if you go, well, we're going to make sure his mentality is okay and we're going to take it easy on him. Screw that. Go out and run some screens. Go out and run those screens we all hate. Run some RPO plays with screens and, make him read the shit out of the UTEP defense. And then you can go back in and say, well, here's what you did right and here's what you did wrong. And because we all know this, because you've all watched 700 shows by every Nebraska media outlet, all of us by now, is that our first 7 games, they're not murderer's row. So you want to figure out what we're going to do in those first 7 games. There's not this, we're going to hide it until we get to Ohio State shit. I get why coaches do that. I don't think we should do that at all. I think you go out there, you run your plays, you work on them, you get better with real competition. And that's what I'm excited about.
I love that. That's a great game plan.
I need to breathe now.
Let's go. Let's go.
God. Oh, okay.
Now it's time for John's Zen moment.
All right. What am I? David Manny says, can we limit our false starts? Gotta hope so.
Absolutely.
He also says, I hope we score enough to give our first string players a rest and keep people from getting injured. That'd be nice to get other guys experience. But like I said, I expect them to play a lot of guys. James Boardman, if the offense doesn't turn over the ball as much, the scoring defense will be a lot better this year. Well, that's probably true. They won't have to defend a short field. Okay.
Yeah. And David says, can we please limit our false starts, which is essential. That's the number one thing
Oh, she's going away again. Oh, well, that's nuts.
Yep.
You're chopping up, Minnie.
I know. It
You're
just keeps
you're gonna
freezing
have
up.
you're gonna have to figure this out before Thursday night, and then we have the big show. I think that's gonna do it for tonight. Hour and a half. That's pretty much my limit. I hope you know what? I hope you all got something out of this because it was, I guess, important to me to do this kind of show right around football season when we know we want to be talking about football, and I want to do something different. All right. So everybody will be around Thursday night, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So show up Thursday night, and you know what I'll do? I'll yell at Greg a lot. You know what else I'll do? I'll probably interrupt him constantly, and I won't
That's
even
great.
apologize for it.
Good.
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
All
Yeah.
right. Good night, Minnie.
Good night, John, and go Big Red.